What is up, maniacs? Welcome back to WMMAnia. I am your host, as always, Drake Riggs, here to bring you the latest and greatest in the world of mixed martial arts, specifically when it pertains to the ladies. So thank you so much for joining us here today on this Wednesday. I apologize for another shakeup. I am still not feeling great. I think I actually feel a little bit worse than yesterday physically, and kind of have a little bit of a cold going. So that was why we changed things from the usual Tuesday time slot here to right now on Wednesday. And you can probably tell my voice a little bit plugged up in the nose, but the show must go on, and a show that we do have today has a lot of good talking points, as we will be recapping Deep Jewel's 39, or at least glancing over the results, because I ended up missing that one live again, as per usual. But there was also the 2022 PFL Championship went down. A lot to talk about there, obviously. Then we got some news, just 2 fights that were announced over the past week since the last episode. This is big episode 40, so 40 consecutive weeks now. I do not believe we have missed a week since starting this edition or iteration of the show here on MMAnia.com. Visit the website for all your MMA needs. You can like, share, and subscribe, of course. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. But as for previews, we have 2 ONE Championship shows that are continuing with this doubleheader theme. One 164, and then one on Prime Video 5 this week. Just 1 fight on each of them that we'll be talking about. They have multiple women's fights, but we're only going to highlight the MMA ones specifically here today. And then UFC Orlando, which is a pretty gosh darn good fight night on paper. Lots to like about that one from top to bottom. Not really surprising, though, because it's not an Apex show. So they're treating that one a little bit more special, as you can see once we get into that. But yeah, 3 fights on that card that we will be talking about. So very excited for that one. Really excited. So, all right, you guys. I think we can get right into it then. See how everybody's doing here. And I guess before we do begin, just like, you know, a reminder to always stay positive. Don't be an asshole if not necessary. That will be, I'll try and start thinking of some good little advices, I guess, to open the show. I don't know what you want to call it. I'm not some genius or anything, but we always like to stay positive around here. And my energy levels are not as high as they would normally be, if you cannot tell. As I mentioned a little bit, not great feeling. So go easy on me if you can, you guys. And I appreciate James yesterday saying feel better. Thank you. Not too much better, but I appreciate the thought. Yeah, just trying to rest as best I can. I don't think that it's the cold. It's getting very cold over here, so that might be just hitting me. Barton, what is up? Hi, did you know that a lot of your friends on this chat room also go to Protect Your Neck? They're quite insightful. Yes, I know that they have been watching Dan's stuff a lot recently, so shout out to him. Dan is the man. We are going to try and do something in the future here sooner rather than later, but I know he's busy with kind of his training stuff and whatnot. Jen asking about the schedule. I know, I told you what's going on. I apologize again, everybody, for the chaos. But Rain here with his weekly rhymes says the Alvin Yakitori of telling a positive story, the Jessica Rose Clark of feeding a lark, the George St. Pierre of exercising with a lawn chair. All right, they're getting better every week, Rain. Keep it up. These are absolutely wonderful. Oh my goodness. As James says, I have noticed something. Why is it if a good fighter gets hit hard by a bad fighter, people make fun of him for it? Barberina nearly finished Leon Edwards, and I see people on Reddit discrediting Leon. Really? That is really, those guys, if people are doing that, they simply are just Leon haters, because how long ago was that fight? I don't even remember when that fight happened. I remember it, but I mean, Barbarina is not bad either. He's always been very fun to watch and is a very competitive guy. Like, he's obviously not like the best or anything or very technical per se, but guy is a total gamer. There's no you're gonna get hit by him pretty much. Doesn't really matter who you are unless you're Hamza. Like, that kind of style is gonna completely shut him down and run through him as it will with most. But yeah, if people are doing that, then if anyone does that with anybody from like an old loss, they're simply just haters. Like, what's a good example? I mean, just any loss from years ago, really. Uh, I think can apply to that. But Ghost asking, did I not get your flu vaccine? I did not. I don't remember the last time that I did, honestly. I don't get shots super often. The last vaccine I got was for corona, of course. But before that, I'm not sure what it would have been. It probably would have been, I don't know. I couldn't tell you, but no, I did not get that. I know that when you do get them, though, they kind of make you sick at first, right? So, real good to see you back. Centro says, will you join the fight companion for SCMP like last time? Funny you mentioned that, Centro. It has been we've been talking a little bit about that. Maybe what that, yeah, we'll see what I'm doing and how I'm feeling um, on that day, but it's possible. I'll just say there's a chance, but I would like to feel feel as good as I could to do that. Jumbo, what is up? Hi. A lot of my friends ask me what is a good podcast to listen to if you want to learn more about MMA, and I always say WMMAnia and protect your neck. Well, you are too kind, Jumbo. Appreciate it greatly. That means a lot. Sammy says if PLFL had a strawweight division with no elbows like right now, which, jeez, we can touch on that here in a sec. Would Whaley not be successful since her number one hurting weapon is not allowed? I don't know if we would classify that as her number one attack. I think it's really hard to label elbows as anybody's primary attack. Obviously, she's very good at them, but I don't think it would affect her to a point where she would not be successful. Um, and for anybody really, like we all know how kind of specific of an attack that elbows can be. They're probably more specific of an attack than like knees, for example. If you think about it, sure you can land them. Maybe it's very situational. It's very situational. I don't know, but she would do fine. Jimmy says, since I am a Mega Magoo fan, did you know that the only person who submitted Sparza other than Whaley was Megumi? Megumi and Magnum, two nicknames that don't suit their style. Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, no, that sounds about right. I mean, obviously, I knew that Megumi armbarred Carla in her fifth fight that back in the day in Bellator. But yeah, I mean, yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, I would have. When you think about all of her losses, that makes a perfect sense. I wouldn't have been surprised if you told me that like before, um, because yeah, I that would have been the only one that comes to mind. My memory is pretty good when it comes to those kind of things, usually, especially related to Megumi, since I've done a pretty thorough research on her and whatnot, and I'm a big fan. Makoto says, in order to be considered as one of the greatest, is it better to have no losses on your record or a few losses but get better from fight to fight? Oh, hold on. I should go back. This is a great question, Makoto. I love this. We're off to a great start here, you guys. Thank you so much. But I wanted to address the elbow thing. What is it? Who said that? Sammy? About the elbows. I understand why they do it. I think it's makes sense for definitely the regular season. Semifinals, I think you could probably start there. Once you get to the playoffs, I think you can do them. 100% in the championship, though, there's no reason whatsoever to not allow them in the championship, because then you're going to have a big old break. The whole point, the whole reason they do that is so that, you don't add the ability of cuts to prevent somebody from, making the quicker turnaround that they have to do in the season. So there's a zero reason to not have them in the championship. I should probably bring this up to them or something, because we got to change that. We got to change that. It's so stupid. And it just doesn't make any sense. But anyway, Makoto says, in order to be considered as one of the greatest, is it better to have no losses on your record or a few losses but get better from fight to fight, or is this a subjective thing entirely? Well, I know where this question's coming from because I don't remember when it was or where it was, but I know Ghost mentioned something about what you guys were talking about Habib versus Oliveira resumes, I think, and being more impressed maybe with Oliveira. At least I think. I don't want to put words in your mouth, Ghost, but I think he said something along those lines, and I understand that thinking. Um, I think, man, it's really tough. It's really tough to say which is more impressive. Like, I think going through that adversity of what Oliveira had to do to get to the top. This is the like best example you can use, right? Habib versus Oliveira is a lot more. I mean, it is definitely very impressive, right? But to not lose a fight, to barely lose a round in almost 30 fights is fucking insane. And maybe even a better example is Fedor. Like, we all know he was like 32-0, right? Then he had that quick stoppage from the cut, the loss to Kosaka, his like third or fourth fight or whatever, like 40 seconds, whatever. That's not a real loss. We all knew that. That was pretty much a no contest. Goes on, whoops his ass in the rematch. I mean, at heavyweight for him to do that, that's perhaps still the most incredible streak of all time. At heavyweight, the margin of error, how powerful the guys are, some of the stuff that he went through, even in his wins. Obviously, the Randleman Slam comes to mind. So it's it's really tricky. I think it's rare to obviously see something like what Oliveira has done and did, still doing. But when you look at a lot of the greatest of all time, though, you don't have many losses, anyways. Habib, GSP, John Jones, asterisk. Silva in his prime before he fell off, only had 4 losses. So I mean, maybe that's a better one. And if anyone has seen the Takahashi fight from Pride, like I don't know if I'd say he got dominated in that one, but he was clearly beaten. What Daiju Takahashi, I think it was. Um, and then obviously the flying scissor heel hook or whatever against Chonin. But just 4. Like there's some very interesting examples for this, but I think it's definitely subjective no matter what. Makoto 100%. So I'll just get that right out of the way. I know I'm going on a little bit here, but I think it's just so hard not to give the edge to someone for the less losses, right? I mean, because it's all about winning and losing. It really is. If you and especially over long periods of time and level of competition, obviously is massive. But yeah, I think it's just kind of hard to go against that one. For me, and Nunes is another good example here in terms of the losses one, like what she has, 5 or 4 now in total. I'm not sure exactly what her count is, but even before she went on her run, obviously had the Zingano loss and what have you. But yeah, this is a topic I could talk about for a whole show. Greatest of all time stuff is always very compelling to me. So great question there. I'll move along, but I'm curious to hear you guys' thoughts. Alvin says, let's always remember to encourage all fighters to give it their all and come out of the fight with good health. Of course, whether that you are a fan or not, encouraging can help anyone, even just a little. So true. Love the message, Alvin. Good stuff there. Esther, good to see you. Hi, Drake. What is your opinion on asking a fighter what their post-fight celebratory plans are? Well, I like this question about a question, Esther. I mean, it's just a fun, harmless little question, but yeah, I mean, I like to ask that depending on who it is. Um, and I think it's obviously better to ask that after they win. Doing it before, kind of silly because you don't know, right? And of course, some people always have things planned anyways because they still want to enjoy the time there. But yeah, it's harmless, but it's not a good question. But I don't know if I'd say it's a bad one either. Obviously, very simple and can sometimes provide you with a very fun response depending on who it is again. So all right, what do we have here? Mad Gavin says, I've been asking this to all women's channels that will listen, and only 2 have agreed with me. All right, let's hear what you got. Says, I truly believe that Zhang did not have better grappling skills than Esparza. She was just stronger and more athletic, not smarter or more skilled. Okay. The narrative going around the community is that Zhang is an elite grappler is really annoying and not true. She's just a brute force and will lose her next fight to Rose or Lemos easy. You have to agree with my opinion because it's thoughtful and analytical. Not necessarily, Gavin. Wasn't. I mean, don't have to agree, and I don't necessarily agree. I don't think easy. I don't think she loses easy to Rose or Lemos. Obvious. Well, you can't say she loses easy to Rose after seeing how the last fight went. I think that's just 100% a given. Otherwise, you're just kind of hating. And then, I mean, clearly, Whaley is very strong and athletic. One of the most athletic fighters around. But to say she's not smart, wasn't smarter or more skilled in that performance is just kind of not accurate either. I've rewatched the fight since then, and she was, I would say, about 98% perfect. It was nearly a flawless performance from Whaley in that one. And again, I talked about it beforehand, how she addressed the takedowns that were going to come her way, how she reacted to them. And she did exactly what she should have done. So that was a smart thing. And it worked. So I can't agree with that, Gavin. I respect your opinion, but I just I don't see it. And I think you should definitely rewatch again. Just in my opinion, because Whaley was very, very, very great in that fight. Centro says, what's more important for Amanda Hebos, getting back up or wrestling defense? Because Tracy has pretty good takedowns. We'll get to that, Centro. You guys remember, save your questions about the fights we'll talk about for those parts of the show. We can separate things easy that way. Ghost says, yes, that was me talking about Oliveira being more impressive than Habib, just because I personally like to see improvement. So, right, yeah, like it's very tricky. I love both of those guys' careers. Huge fan of both of them. Habib's one of my favorite fighters of all time. And I mean, I guess I might have to say Oliveira is by default too. Like he's been so fun to watch. But yeah, it's just kind of I guess what you value more there. But it's very difficult to not go against perfection again in all areas. That's what you always want to be. Sammy says, I agree. I think the elbows are good for the regular season. The no elbows, you mean? But for the championship fight, let them fly. Yes, I just thought Whaley would not be good since her elbows on the ground. And Kayla could use elbows versus Larissa. Yeah, that would we're about to get into that. That would have helped her for sure. Jin says, I'm with James. I with James on have been on Reddit and noticed people making fun of Kayla Harrison for losing. First off, why? Second of all, Larissa did good things. I might not be as good. Say analyzing what she did good. Well, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious there, Jin, why they made fun of her, because obviously talks a big game. Some of the things she said before the fight in hindsight are not great and great now. So yeah, I think she made herself an easy target, and it's what you get. You should expect that if you end up losing. And I mean, it's not like she got completely dominated. We're about to get into that, like I said. Gavin says, my argument is Carla is known as a grappler, and grapplers always beat strikers in a bad technique. Not always, clearly. I mean, look at Carla versus Joanna. You completely contradicted yourself there. And we've seen that. We've seen it several times with people. I mean, you could look at what would you consider Kelvin? I mean, I know it's a competitive fight, Kelvin versus Adesanya, but he really shot himself in the foot with that takedown. There's a lot of examples at this point in MMA's history where grapplers always beating strikers is not always the case anymore. Obviously, it used to be, but no. I mean, I just threw that one right at you right away. Carla and Joanna's a good example of that immediately. Alex, what is up, my guy? Thanks for tuning in. Ghost says, and it winds up Habib fans, which is also fun. Nothing against Habib. I think he's great. Yeah, no, pretty much a lot of the Dagestani fans, they are real diehard. Some of the most diehard fans in the sport, that's for sure. But anyway, all right, a good 20-minute intro today. There's a lot. I appreciate you guys. I told you there's a lot to talk about. Doing my best to stick along with it. So let's take a look at Deep Duels 39 real quick, which did go down last Wednesday, which was I don't know why they did it that way. Maybe for the holidays. I wouldn't imagine it'd be for the US. I have no idea why they did it this way, but they did. So yeah, let's take a gander here. 10 p.m. Eastern time on the 22nd. So what day was that? That was Tuesday. So it went down the night of our show last week, episode 39. But Yoko Higashi, unsurprisingly, finishes T-Tapa. What is this, round 3? So it took her a little bit longer there. So that's surprising. But gets the job done. No surprise there. We knew that was going to happen. Miki Mitono versus Morisuda, the fight of this card, the one to highlight. Miki gets it done. Very interested to see how that played out, but I'm not super surprised. As high as I've been on Suda and as impressive as she is for her age, true prodigy, wonder child, coming up through the atomweight ranks. Miki does have just that experience, life experience with her combat careers, and the size. I'm assuming the size was probably a big deal there, but I did read from shout out to MMA Rising. If you want to always see the results and kind of recaps of how these fights went down, if you can't catch them right away or whatever, he's the place to go to. Robert Sargent, MMArising.com. Sounded like Suda did win a round, so it was fairly competitive from reading, but I'm looking forward to watching that one for sure. Nori Date gets the split. Kuriyama, unanimous against Fujita. Risa Matsuda defeats Mika Nagano. So this is one of those cases, you guys, we talked about it last week, where the BS matchmaking, manipulative matchmaking backfired. Mika Nagano, the veteran, the pioneer in the strawweight division, trying to have this one last run here, and she's been kind of getting fed some noobs, some newcomers, and this one in Matsuda ends up pulling off the upset, unanimous decision. So that's kind of funny. We'll see now if Mika retires, because I think, like I said last week, I think she was planning to fight until she lost. So props to her for trying, but there you go. There you go. Fukuda gets the win over Arai. Another upset there in the matchmaking, the BS matchmaking, kind of funny. And it's interesting when that happens. Then it makes you say to yourself, was it actually bad? Was it actually bad matchmaking? They pulled it off. So they proved they were supposed to be there. And I don't know why I did the high pitch voice for that, but it felt right. Kumagai defeats Hisoya. We got a Kimura here from Horiguchi. Very nice. Rear naked from Tanayama. Holding back a sneeze. Okatami and Tsunoda. Oh, we saved it there. Sorry, guys. Like I said, a little bit under the weather, so I do have some tissues on hand, at least. But yeah, of course, highlight of this most important fight on this card, 100%, was the co-main event, Motono versus Suda. Can pretty much guarantee we will see Motono in Ryzen at some point relatively soon. Who knows? Maybe she gets on the New Year's card. Not sure how many more they're planning on adding to that, but one to look out for. She is a talent in her own right. 10-year advantage in age over Suda, and she's still only 28. That's how young Mori Suda is. So yeah. Crombopoulos says, do you like well thought out cards like the next one? I'm assuming you mean UFC. Absolutely. How can you not? Barton says, I may not be hardcore enough, but is Deep Jewels an all-female fighting promotion? Does it have featherweight or bantamweight divisions? Yes, Barton. So I always say this to people. Deep Jewels is essentially the Japanese equivalent of Invicta. So yes, all women. But it is also deep. So over in Japan, the Deep promotion, they have their Deep Impact shows, which have the men on them too, and then they also have women's fights sometimes. So it's kind of like more special that way. But Deep Jewels is their female fighting promotion version. They do have featherweight, and the Higashi fight, that was the main event there. Higashi's the featherweight champ, but she had that bantamweight fight for whatever reason. Not super deep, like. That's funny. Look at that funny wordplay. But all their divisions above strawweight, so flyweight, bantamweight, featherweight, not deep whatsoever. Flyweight more so. It's better the lower you get. Like clearly their atomweight and strawweight has the most going on there for sure. And they even have the kind of experimental microweight division, which is 97 pounds. But yeah. Mad Gown says, here's another generality that is normally true. If a grappler is known as one of the best grapplers, they should not be beat in grappling unless they did not prepare well. Okay, fair. That's why he's angry at the Carla Whaley results. Well, I mean, it is what it is, man. Well, okay, I'm not surprised by one of those names you mentioned. I'm not going to give them any credit on my show ever, so we'll leave it at that. But Sammy says, "Do you enjoy it when manipulative BS backfires?" I think it's funny. I don't know if I enjoy it. Depends on who's doing it, but yes, it's always funny. And like I said, it makes you question. Then was it really manipulative? Then was it actually bad? In most cases, you're like, no, there's no way that Nagano should have lost that fight, but still got to see it. Still got to see it. But Jimmy says to parlay Dan Tom's wordage off Sammy's point, it's a clever little betting slang he's using there, which is more likely to backfire, manipulative BS or predatory matchmaking. Predatory for sure. I think in much more cases, that's a safe one. That's a closer outcome, I guess you could say. And thank you, Rain. Yes, that was perfect. Barton says, "Do they fight in a cage for deep jewels?" Yes, they do. They switch it up sometimes. I don't remember the last time they went to the ring, but yes, they're usually more often than not in the cage. And yeah, the deep impact shows will also switch back and forth. I don't know how they decide when they want to do it, but yeah, they'll play around with both. But all right, you guys, let's get into it now. The biggest topic of the weekend, truly. I mean, the biggest card of the weekend, right? 2022 PFL Championship. Day after Thanksgiving in America. At lightweight in the main event, Larissa Pacheco defeats Kayla Harrison via unanimous decision, 48-47 on all three judges' scorecards. So, who would have thought we'd be kind of interested and compelled to talk about the lightweight fight? I'm not surprised by this though. As anybody who's followed this season specifically, I said this last week too. That's the fun part about having a live stream show and whatnot. You can always go back and call me out for things, such as something I said a year ago, maybe back when we were WMA Today. Still, you can call me out for like saying that Kayla Harrison could compete specifically with Cyborg based off of her judo alone. I said that about 4 fights into her career. So very early on, I said that. Might have been even earlier. You can go back and find it if you really wanted to. But I'm just throwing it out there because now, the power of hindsight, I'm going to disagree with myself on that. Opinions change, thoughts change, and especially after seeing this fight, even though no excuses whatsoever. I don't think Kayla's making excuses, but I don't know if I heard it, but I feel like I heard her say somewhere. It might have been in her immediate post fight. I think it had to, or earlier. It was before the fight. Even she was saying like people don't know what she had to go through this season and all that. Don't know if she had some injuries or health things. I don't want to speculate, but even if she did not, she still did pretty all right in this fight. Obviously, won 2 rounds, but I'm telling you guys, I think there's a pretty good argument to be made. So it was clear, right? Round 2, round 4 were Pacheco's, and then she won the 5th. And the judges gave, I actually haven't seen the cards, but I'm assuming it was 3-1 to Kayla, 1 for sure. But I think there's an argument to even be made for Kayla losing the 3rd round, because in the most of that round, Pacheco was on bottom, but she was doing it was guard, and she was landing a lot of good big shots. Whipped up a triangle, had that held for a good amount of time, maybe a full minute. I'm not sure exactly how long, but she was landing some heavy shots there too. And then at the end of the round, though, Kayla gets in mount, does some good damage, but I don't think it overtakes that amount of time and the damage that Pacheco did. So I think you could argue like it was really close, but I leaned towards Pacheco in that one. So that'd be a 49-46 scorecard on mine, even though still competitive. On the feet, I don't think it was very close at all. Kay landed a good left hook, big bomb kind of in the second round, I think it was, but obviously didn't win that one. Pacheco just kind of there was just more on everything she was doing. She defended stuff very well for the most part. Good scramble positions. Kayla obviously hit her with a very nice trip there in the first round when they were clinching up. She just didn't set up her takedowns good at all as the fight went on, was the thing for Kayla. Like, it was just very obvious when they were coming, no setup. Attacked the legs far less. Like, she did an all right job early on. I mean, it's never been something she's strong at. Threw some head kicks up too, but and the approach too from Pacheco was smart, to play it a little bit more patiently. She's obviously known for her incredible power that she's developed and knocking everybody out since the last fight with Kayla, since the rematch. And she did not get kind of overly crazy in there. Obviously had some moments where she blitzed and came in and put the pressure on, but they were well-timed moments to overwhelm Kayla. So it was just a good performance. I think more than anything, we got to give Pacheco some credit here for not all. I mean, clearly for being the first person to beat Kayla, but like I think it's more people saying Kayla sucks or sucked than giving Pacheco credit, which is never a fair thing. Depending, I guess, on how it goes. But overall, like this was a pretty solid performance from her. Obviously, she still got caught in some bad positions, right? Like I said, there was the mount at the end of the third, but overall, she defended much more and much better in the grappling exchanges than I think she has gotten credit for. And I mean, on we always knew who the better striker was too. So very interesting fight, very interesting one. But Citra says he's not going to make fun of Kayla like people have been doing. Yeah, I mean, never a nice thing to do. Citra says, why was Larissa so much better after losing to Jessica Andrade and Kayla? Well, I don't understand maybe the comparison there. What it was Andrade, the last person she lost to in the UFC? Because obviously I'll never forget the GDR fight. GDR beat the brakes off of her. But clearly one of the big things was she went up in weight and doesn't have to cut weight anymore, at least to the same extent. I have no idea what she walks around at, but obviously not cutting the bantamweight. That's a big factor. So that's really helped with her power, clearly. And I don't remember where she used to train with, but I know she trained with ATT Atlanta. I don't know for the whole season, but for this fight specifically. And having fought somebody twice and getting in 6 rounds against them, I mean, that experience I think helped her tremendously to improve off of what she needed to work on and get ready for this time around. And that showed completely in her game plan. Like I said, in her fights, pretty much all of her fights since the rematch against Kayla, she's just gone out there and starched people, right? But then she did not approach it the same way here. A necessary caution after having fought her for 6 rounds. So I think if you look at kind of all those factors, Centro, that would be why. James did not see this coming. So yeah, it still definitely surprised a lot of people. It is an upset for sure. I don't think it's as huge of an upset as maybe made out to be. As I was saying, Pacheco, because she's gotten quite good. She's only lost to Harrison above 135 and post UFC. I don't want to point this out really quickly, just a random little note, but I don't know if it's just me, but when I was watching this fight, you guys, you know how they do the live odds little counter? That's fucking distracting, man. Like, I know that's my fault, but I don't know. I was very fascinated for that fight specifically with such big odds gaps. Watching the fluctuation was distracting to me. Like, it didn't take me away from the action or anything, but it was just kind of a little bit, I don't know if I want to say annoying, but I could see how people would be annoyed by that. PFL putting up all these ridiculous unneeded stats kind of on the screen at one time, yeah, that was just something I thought was kind of funny. And I don't know, it stood out to me in this fight specifically, I think because of the size in the difference of things. And Pacheco did not go over until the very end of the fight. Sammy says, let's go back to the thing I mentioned about elbows. Would Harrison have done much better with elbows from Closed guard top. Yeah, probably. I don't see any reason she wouldn't. But there was also a moment, I don't remember which round it was, one of the early ones, might have been the second round, um, where Pacheco had Kayla in almost like a full-on crucifix. It was relatively close. She had her close to it. So that would have been obviously bad from there. And then even from the bottom, I bet Pacheco would have landed some real nice ones too. She was doing great work from the bottom. And then when she was fending off Kayla trying to get on her legs, like by the knees, throwing the hammers down, she could have hit some elbows. It would have been trouble for both of them in a lot of positions, but I think maybe worse for Kayla, honestly. And Ghost says, I know there's been a lot of argument for this fight, but Larissa fought smarter, got out of a couple positions, and probably won. Just his bad take of the day. No, I agree with you. James says, I noticed that Kayla was using the same entry, rear overhand to knee tap that Ghost mentioned on the Phantom Punch. Do you think that she settled for that entry because it worked for her back then? 100%. If it's not broken, don't fix it. And maybe that's just one that she's obviously very comfortable with and a go-to for her. So kind of the repetition, you resort back to things when maybe you're getting a little bit overwhelmed or whatnot. James says, how come even high-level fighters can fail to change? Well, like I said, yeah, I mean, never having to go through that kind of adversity to the level that she just did in MMA. Obviously, I'm sure some of her judo matches were probably very difficult, but it was a new thing for her. So we'll see how she, we still got to see how she comes back, right? If she continues to be kind of doing these same patterns, then that's obviously a problem. But I think it's too soon to say that, this was a new experience for her. Cinder says, I'm saying that Larissa lost to one of the smallest women in the world and beat one of the largest. No offense, Kaylee. Yes. We know, everyone knows what you mean, Citro. Yeah, that is a good point. Well, it's kind of funny though, because like Andrade is small in stature and height and that stuff, right? But she's built like a little brick tank. So she's, I wouldn't say one of the smallest, but I get what you're saying. Obviously fights at strawweight and flyweight between there and now. So there's a very big difference in terms of, yeah, I'm sure Kayla next to Andrade would look pretty funny. But yeah, it is. It's been a very weird career for Pacheco, hasn't it? Rain says, this proof that even if a fighter is down 0-2 in a series, that the fighter down 0-2 could still win the trilogy. So people need to stop counting Whaley out of the Rose trilogy. I mean, well, yeah, we've there have been some examples of that in the past, and obviously, you guys know the rematch was close in that one anyway. So I don't think it even really applies to normal situations. But yeah. And of course, you could say eventually they're going to win if they continue to get these shots. But yeah, I don't know. It's always a tricky dynamic, though. Multiple fights against the same people. Barton says, do you think that fight night in front of the crowd? Do you think that fight nights in front of the crowd have better thought into them? Yeah, 100%. I think that's completely obvious with what we have coming up here, and we'll obviously get to that. Sidor says, since Whaley got the crucifix short choke, do you think that could be the next wave in MMA crucifix entries from all over the place? I don't know about that. It's kind of, it depends, I think, more so on how the takedown is presented to them, which I don't know if it'll all be the same like that. Could be something people try to start doing, but I don't know. I wouldn't bet on that. Let's put it that way, Rue. James says, do you think adversity can help Kayla? It helped Whaley, but man, Marlon Rice did not help. Jeez, I still cannot believe that guy came back. Yeah, no, I mean, you think about Kayla, the kind of competitor she is. I'm going to do this example here too, because it's the easy one. Judo Olympic gold medalist, one of the hardest possible things to do 2 times. That kind of mentality. I mean, the mentality she's already had as an MMA fighter. You guys remember, she cried after she beat Pacheco because she went to decision. She didn't finish her the first fight. So she cried. She was upset that she didn't finish her. That's how upset she was. But the easy comparison here is look at someone with the same type of mentality and attitude towards athletics and sport and proving to themselves how great they can be. Henry Cejudo, look what he did, how he adapted and changed after he lost in MMA. Easy example. Is it too off? I don't know, but that's what jumps to mind. So I think Kayla, this could be an incredibly good thing for her. But time will tell. It's very interesting going forward. Definitely hurts the perception though of any cyborg fight or anything like that, which that's kind of an afterthought now. As Go says, wasn't one of the Rampage trilogies he was down 0-2 and 1? Yes, Vanderlei, the Vanderlei Silva tetralogy, right? Because they had 4 fights. He lost twice in Pride, I believe. Then he finally beat him in the UFC, and then he beat him in Bellator in their 4th fight, which I was there for that. That was the very first event I ever covered, Bellator 206. He knocked Vanderlei out right in front of me. It was crazy, man. Like back against the cage, right there. I will never forget that scene. Crazy fight too, actually. Like it was a lot better in person than watching it on TV. I remember rewatching it afterward, and I was like, "Wow, they look so slow on TV." But it was actually it was a lot better in person. It was very funny. But yeah, good example there, Ghost. Rampage did end up finishing that one there. And Rue says, I mean, only Habib and Mighty Mouse were the only ones doing crucifix entries back in the day. Yeah, that is a good point. Sammy says, are you surprised that we are not putting Kayla down like most on the forums? Maybe a little bit. I'm glad, though. I appreciate it. Positivity, always, you guys. As Gavin says, he thinks this was a robbery. Kayla should have won easy. Disagree with that one as well, obviously. I just, yeah, I mean, fair play to you, but even if you think Kayla won, it wasn't a robbery whatsoever. I can't see it. I can't see the argument there. Most of what she was effective with was with her control and grappling, but it's all about the damage, man. And she was definitely down on that in 3 of the rounds, at least. Like I said, I can argue that 3rd for her, for Pacheco as well, but yeah. Bruce says Carla had a crucifix again against Jan, but that was just Jan giving her arm instead of creative entries. Yeah, that is true. But all right, let's move it along because there were some other fights on this one. The next one's less interesting, but it did happen. As Aspen Ladd defeated Julia Budd via split decision. So this fight was a lot closer than the other one, Gavin. I'm going to call you out there specifically. And I'm curious to see what you guys think about this, but how you felt about the decision anyway. Ladd defeats Julia Budd, split decision 29-28, 28-29, 29-28. So it was very close. I thought I struggled to, I don't know, confidently say who I gave this one to. I saw a lot of people, though, felt that Julia won. I don't think it's a robbery either way. I was pleasantly surprised to see Ladd try to grapple more. Was not successful in her really wrestling attempts to get the fight to the ground, which does not surprise me, but I'm pleasantly surprised that she tried to do that because she kind of got away from it, as we noted in the preview last week. But I think this pretty clearly came down to the 3rd round and very close. I think Ladd probably threw more. So that kind of maybe masked things, but it seemed like Julia did have just a very slight edge in the more impactful shots that she was landing, but she was backing up a lot, which optically never looks great. But you got to remember, you cannot count that. That does not score unless they're landing or doing something with it, right? So if you're a fighter who is going back the whole time, but is the one landing, then they're winning. It does not fucking matter just because you're moving backwards. That is one of my biggest pet peeves, I think, in all of MMA, which thankfully that has died down a lot, people having that misconception, but it used to be pretty bad a couple of years ago. I don't know if I want to say that played into this fight whatsoever in scoring it, but very close one, very close. I'm fine with either way, either direction. I think I slightly lean Julia, but again, not a robbery either way. Yeah, it was fine. It was an all right fight. Jimmy says this was bizarre. I thought that Bud won, just more pressure and clean counters and able to defend takedowns. Right, like Julia, yeah, I think she impressed me more. That's for sure. Yeah, her counters were nice. defended very well. Yeah, even though you don't score for defending, so that is a thing. But in terms of like seeing how she performed, yeah, I agree. Gavin says he just doesn't like when the better overall fighter loses, like Kayla Harrison and Carla losing. Um, well, I feel that if they just had the right mental space, they beat these fighters. Well, obviously, we've seen that with Kayla. I mean, she has 2 wins over Pacheco, right? But this Carla and Whaley comparison you're making here is unjustified. I mean, Whaley is undeniably the better fighter. Um, if you look at performances and who she's beaten, the performances, and I mean, pretty much that's just the big thing. Look at how their fight went. First of all, that's all I need to say. But I mean, Carla arguably lost at least I would argue the Marina and the Lemos, not Lemos, the John Deroba fight on her run. Like this is not something we need to argue about for sure. But I get the Kayla one. I think that's more justifiable. Ghost says Lad's game plan was not good here. Her entries weren't good. Yeah, it was still rough. Like I said, I was at least happy to see she was trying. But close fight, not going to argue the decision, even though he'd still edged the bud. So yeah, it seems like a lot of people felt that Zhang and Yan are the same fighter. That's not true either. I love both of them, but I disagree with that as well. But if that was true, then Carla would have beat Whaley, right? So there you go. These are some easy to debunk claims, Gavin. Appreciate the thought though. Sammy also thinks Bud clearly won. Yeah, so a lot of Bud thoughts here, which it's a bummer. That's a bummer for her for sure. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know what more to say about it, but good for Aspen Ladd, I guess. So we'll see. I mean, I'm not confident, and it depends on what this next season looks like. I'm sure I would not be surprised at all if we get a rematch between them next year. I'd be interested in that, maybe just more than anything, considering how this went. Ladd versus Kayla doesn't really do anything for me. Ladd versus Pacheco doesn't do anything. Pacheco would knock out Ladd. I feel pretty comfortable about that one. Yeah, I don't know. It's very interesting. Sammy says, "Will this be robbery of the year?" No. I don't think so. Like I said, I think I was very torn on it. I do lean Bud as well, but yeah, I don't think robbery of the year. I'd have to think of what robbery of the year has been. There was that Invicta one that happened a while back. Forget specifically who. Was very bad. Leave it to Invicta. Rue agrees. Jid says Ladd was pressuring more. Do you think the judges counted for that instead of the clean counters? See, that's what I hope wasn't the case, but could have been, because that's just such a blinder. At least it was a lot worse, like I said back in the day, and I fucking hate that. But it could have been. I hope not. But so Barton's on my side. I didn't really know. It was quite close. Yeah. So it was too close to be a robbery, in my opinion. But I think that the wrong person probably won. So we'll see. It makes things interesting going forward to an extent. Goes to sticking with Dern versus Torres is robbery of the year. All right, I love it. I still got to go and rewatch that one. I will try and find time this week because I want to rewatch it too. Because of how confident you guys are about that. And I do remember, I'm pretty sure agreeing in scoring, but I didn't feel as confident as you guys have. Doesn't not like Dern Torres, but Torres did good work and get no credit for it. Yeah, I mean that's objectively fact, for sure. So yeah, robbery of the year. I'll have to think about that one. I'll have to look back at some stuff. Check out MMA decisions. A lot of people will say Jan and Sterling. Disagree with that one. Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to take a closer look on that as well. But, excuse me. As we wrap up the PFL portion of the show, this has been a fun show today, you guys. Appreciate everyone tuning in, contributing. Lots of great conversation and topic points. You guys, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. As we're taking our sweet time, this is a good lengthy show. We're on good time though. But kicking off the women's action for the night was Dakota Ditcheva. My God, putting Catherine Corrigenes in a body bag, digging the grave. First round knockout punches right at the 420 mark. Quite a high off of that knockout, I'm sure. Da-dunch. So yeah, Dakota Ditcheva continues to impress. Like I said before this fight, I mean, last week didn't really preview it much because I honestly had not seen Corrigene's fight, in which she'd only had 2 fights in her career before this one. Dakota has obviously been one of the best prospects, kind of rising up through the flyweight ranks since she started, and now in the PFL. This is what, her second win, and quite a big one, quite a good highlight to have on the record. I mean, there's not much more to say about it. This was a very clean, very nice. Look at that right hand. I mean, that still shot says it all. This was some good stuff right there. And speaking of robbery of the years again, Ghost says, yeah, versus Sterling 2, not a robbery. Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think so, but I know a lot of people did, Ghost. I thought that, yeah, Sterling won that fight. And I got a lot of shit for my scorecard on that, which people were confused by it, but you can go and look for yourself. Jimmy says, man, if Ghost and Drake don't think of close fights as robberies, then when they do think of fight as robbery, then it probably was. There you go, Jimmy. Yes, I have always been a long-standing proponent, I think that would make sense to say that, of or supporter of, believer that if it's a close fight, it's not a robbery. And you can have, well, you can have close but clear winners. So, like, I'm trying to think of one of my favorite examples of that kind of case, a close but clear fight. I think probably Yasmin Yarigo, the Battle of the Yasmins in their debuts the last time out. And we'll talk about one of those coming up here. But like, that was a fight that was really competitive, fun, relatively close. But I think Yasmin Yarigo clearly won. Edged out the rounds, but they were competitive enough. You know what I mean? So they're going to be close but clear, and that wasn't a robbery either. Obviously, that was scored properly. But yeah, when a fight's a robbery, trust me, I'll let you know, because I am not shy to voice my opinion in those regards. And Makoto says, do you think robbery is an overused term in MMA? Yes, it's maybe the most. It's probably the most. Seems like people get angry regardless of who wins. Yeah, no, calling fights robberies is one of the 100%, perhaps the most overused term in MMA, for sure. For sure, Makoto. Yeah. But anyway, congrats to Dakota Ditcheva. Very excited to see her future, which presumably you would think would be in a PFL flyweight season next year. The more, that's where things get really fun and exciting, you guys. Let's think about this prospect, this aspect, possibility for a second. PFL doing their thing, right? Like, giving fighters these great opportunities for the amount of money they're doing. Love that. That's fantastic. No elbows, that sucks, obviously, yada yada. And yeah, I mean, that stuff's all great, right? Doing this right now with only the women's lightweights, not a real fucking division, right? Like, they made this thing up, surrounded it for Kayla. She's the biggest, benefactor of it all. Give us more. Give us the flyweights. Give us the strawweights. If you're smart, you beat UFC and Bellator to the atom weights. Could you imagine? Imagine how cool it would be if, we talk about the UFC wrangling up all the atom weights, having this perfect starting division. I struggle to believe it happens, but let's say they did. PFL gathers up all the atom weights they can, steals them from Rise and whatnot. They have Seke Izawa and whoever else you want competing for $1 million just to see those great talents, these fighters who deserve that, get it. What are we waiting for, PFL? Start this up now. And even with flyweight and divisions that actually have a good amount of bodies that are actually fighters for the division, not blowing up featherweights and bantamweights, like, good for them. I'm all for them getting the opportunities and whatnot. But once you get divisions that are divisions throughout the world, the possibilities of what you get there is very exciting and the enticement for the other fighters. So let's say the PFL actually has a better chance than the UFC, for example, to do a proper colossal atomweight division because they have the enticement with the money, right? Like, sure, we've seen their purses have come out that they're not really great. They're not really great if you don't win the $1 million, but the opportunity to get that, it's all you need. It's all you need to get someone to try, and just to see like that possibility would be great. I love Ryzen and all, everybody else. For example, talking about the atom weights here, but just if you want to trust somebody to build the atom weight division properly stateside and give it the love and exposure and opportunity potential that it can get, PFL is the spot. It's the spot. Maybe they'd still find a way to fuck it up. I wouldn't be surprised by that, but I think if anyone has a chance, it's because of that support system in the wallet to do it right. UFC not going to shell it out the same. Makoto says he saw some of my colleagues say the Jan versus Dern was a robbery, which makes no sense since Jan clearly won that. Bias towards Dern, maybe saying that she's better than she really is. No, that fight was definitely not a robbery either. If you think that was that fight, I can I think close enough to not be a robbery. I mean, I had it a draw, right? I had it. So I mean, no, whoever said that, whoever it is, we don't need to name names, Makoto, but I disagree with them for sure. No matter who you think in that one, not a robbery for either person. Sammy says, can UFC just buy the PFL instead of making slap fight? That would be nice, wouldn't it? I would much prefer that. But no, there's no chance of that happening. The PFL would be the most expensive promotional purchase that they've probably ever done. And PFL wouldn't succumb to that either, I don't think. They're really trying to do their own thing and confident in their abilities to do it. So yeah. I mean, in terms of like roster wise, though, they'd have probably one of the smallest portions to take over. But then both be on ESPN and that kind of thing. It's very interesting, kind of the potential stuff going on there. So, all right, I see we have an imposter in the chat. So you are getting blocked. There we are. As we had an exposure recently. There's somebody going around pretending to be other people. Or at least another person. And I've had this happen to me a while last year, which was crazy, but I just got another one in here. So yes, that's fun. Sammy says, honestly, I'd rather have anything else than slap fight. It's one of the dumbest things I've ever seen in my entire life. That is for sure, my man. So yeah, I just don't even know what to say about that. I think that's all you need to say, really. So, all right, with that note, let's get to the news. Real quick here. Just 2 bits, like I said. At flyweight, Andrea KGB Lee returns to take on Macy Barber at a UFC Fight Night event on March 25th. Why is this being booked so soon? Am I like, what is going on? March 25th. Tomorrow is December 1st. I mean, I don't know what's going on here. Like, I'm fine with the fight. I think the matchmaking's fine and all that, but how am I supposed to believe or trust? Like, how am I supposed to get excited for this happening when it's that far away? Why would the fighters want to book it so far away either? I don't know. This is just odd to me, the timing of this. But as a matchup, I'm here for it. I'm good with it. I think it should be pretty fun. Rankings wise, I don't see it doing too much harm. the flyweight rankings are kind of so all over the place for me. At least as I do my personal ones worldwide, and after Alima, lost, and just kind of everything with Deanna Bennett and Keish and all that really fucking threw a scramble and everything, rankings wise. But in the UFC, like for example, because of that, like Macy's not even in like my top 17-ish. Because I think flyweight is kind of proven to at least be that deep to an extent, at least for them to have to prove it. I don't know. Should I show you guys my personal rankings? Would this be? I don't know. Are you privileged enough to see? I'm curious now just to see myself what exactly is going on here. But Barber versus Lee, as a fight, I think should be a fun, good fight. I mean, it usually is with both of them. That's for sure. But what was I gonna say? Lee obviously trying to rebound off the tough Araujo loss. Barber, I mean, continuing to look better. Continue to look better each time out, I would say. Well, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Top 18. AC Barber is not in my top 18 of flyweights worldwide, global. Andrea Lee is currently at 15 for me. So, yes. That, yeah, I mean, it's a very kind of crazy division globally right now. James says, are they trying to build up Barber again? I mean, I don't think in the same fashion. I think this is a logical step. There's nothing really wrong with this fight. Says NY. I mean, she's got probably a higher upside at this point than, let's say, Lee, for example. You look at the youth and all that, fresher matchups and whatnot. Jersey, good to see you. Says, what do I think of the UFC fighters being able to interact with fans after big events? I mean, it's cool. It's you do not get access in sports to the athletes anywhere better than with MMA, whether it's media or as fans. It's pretty cool. One of the coolest parts about the sport. Bart says, is Macy a championship caliber as she claims to be? Not yet. No, definitely not. Not yet. Not yet at all. Goes says, Macy and Lee, a fight where both don't understand distance control. Right. So there you have it. Yeah, it will should be interesting. If it happens, I mean, knock on the wall. Not wood necessarily, right? But March 25th. My goodness, so far away. So far away. Has Roos, why is Dana so high on Barber? He mentioned Barber versus UFC 276 when it was claimed to be stacked. There is no way he did that. Not like by itself. I mean, if he grouped it into stuff, I get that, but I hope he didn't do that. Yeah, he's always obviously had maybe a soft spot for her, but that's not good if he did that. Go says the way Macy and Lee will go is one will rush and the other will sprint back. That sounds pretty accurate, actually. Rue says he mentioned it to Kevin Ioli. That actually sounds familiar now. I think I remember that. My goodness. I would like to forget it. I would like to forget that. And as for the other bit of news, Jessica Penne versus Tabitha Ricci has been rebooked. So another March date, though, UFC 285, which the rumored, or at least the expectation rumor of an eventual John Jones Ngannou possibility. Not sold on that happening necessarily, but that's obviously the rumor mill for when Ngannou would perfectly be able to come back. But anyway, Jessica Penne versus Tabitha Ricci. I'm all for this. I was very bummed when this fight fell through, a couple of weeks ago. Not sure exactly why or what happened, but it was Jessica had to pull out. And now we're rebooking. So I'm fine with it. I love this matchup. I think it's a very fun stylistic clash, and we'll still be getting it just a bit down the line. So there you go. There you go. Not much more to say about it until it happens. We've already talked about it not a decent bit, but we've talked about it already on the show since it is a rebooking. Not on this show specifically today, but in the past. So That's all your news for the week, everybody. Two fights that should be pretty good. I think they will end up being good. Just they're both in March actually, so we have quite a ways to go. Sammy says, so this should be a good win for Tabitha since Tabitha trains with Santino DeFranco and Santino makes good game plans. I think at this stage, you probably do gotta lean Ricci, but I never really count out Penne. I love some Penne. And especially, this fight I anticipate will go to the ground. So yeah. Makoto says, why did Penny get a title shot against Joanna? She was outmatched back then. Yeah, that was definitely a premature title shot. That did not make a lot of sense. I think it was a timing thing and limited options. What that fight happened in Poland. It was, I think, the first UFC event in Poland. So they just kind of, they obviously wanted Joanna to headline and needed someone to go against it. I guess Penny at the time was the best they could have went with, but not the most logical. I mean, they could have done the Claudia rematch, right? At the time, that would have been fine. I don't know if she had fought yet since the first Joanna fight, but yeah, no, it wasn't the most earned title shot necessarily. I might sneeze here. Hold on. Ooh. Providing gift material is what I'm doing with this on camera, but it sneaks up on you. Jin says, is it bad to count out fighters? Everyone count out Carla, and rightfully so. Well, and people at MA Space are trying to convince people that Carla had a chance. Like I said and have always said, everybody has a chance. Just a matter of how big it is, Jim. Carla had a chance. It was one of the smallest chances maybe a fighter's ever had, but it was a chance nonetheless. So is it bad to count out fighters? I mean, it can be. I don't know if you would say it's bad though, because that's some good motivation for them or something to think about. Depends on how they take it. I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer to counting someone out. It's just how you feel, right? It's however you assess the matchup. So I don't know if that can be a good or a bad thing, really, depending again how they take it. If you're putting it out there. Ghost shouting out Brandon Olivias, who has a crush on Tabitha. Brandon is a guy I got to train with at Fight Ready. All right, I have no idea who that is. If it's just a friend of yours or somebody who's a fighter, I don't know. That story is funny if you ever talk to Tabitha in the future. All right, well, if there is a story there, I will try and do it then. I'm going to try and interview her just because I want to hear this story, Ghost. I'm going to put this on my list right now. I reach out to Tabitha Ricci for an interview. There you go. Look at that. All right. But anyway, let's get to the previews, you guys. We are closing in 22 minutes or so left in the show here at most. As you know, we like to wrap up around that sweet spot of 90 at the maximum. So, all right, Brandon is a regional guy. Shout out to him, Brandon Olivias. Yes. But all right, anyway, 164 going down this week. And we have the return, or is it really a return when it is the upgraded, presumably new version? What would this be? Bung Tao Mung Bo 3.0, 2.0, 3.0, as Mung Bo takes on Jenilyn Olson in her second fight back at 125 pounds. This is the very first fight of this card. Mung Bo versus Jenilyn Olson is. And Olson typically fighting at 115, where Mung Bo used to fight as well, but she's back up now again. I think back up. I don't know if it's her first time here. What her last fight was the Mezabarba split, right? That was a good, fun, competitive fight, obviously. Split decision. So it better be, in theory, it would be close if you didn't see it. But had the Ritu loss before then, B win, the B win. Myra Mazar. So yeah, these were all 115-pound fights, of course. And they have that similar opponent in Ritu. right there. And Tiffany Teo loss for Mungbo in her return up in weight. So I love me some Mungbo. I'm always really excited to watch her fight. And I am very, very much intrigued and excited by how she will look in this one, having done the training at Bang Tao, right? Like, what a cool thing to see everyone just kind of fluctuating through there a little bit recently this year. Like, what is going on? How are they, why are they attracting everybody? I mean, obviously, not a good going on there, but um, uh, yeah, Mungbo always has been one of the absolute hardest punchers. Um, whether it's at 125 or 115, especially 115. I mean, I still don't know. Well, I do know how she did not beat Ritu in that fight. Had her on ice skates, was on her way to a win. Decided she didn't go for the armbar. She went to try and pound her out instead. Probably would have got the win there. But I mean, and I still think you could maybe argue it. Like if you watch that fight, you look at the amount of damage she did, scoring a fight as a whole. I mean, Mung Bo really put it on Ritu, and obviously the wrestling was the big issue there. And then she got caught against Teo as well 10 months ago. So she's taking her time to kind of regroup and repair. I didn't get to talk to her ahead of this one. I usually like to talk to Mungbo ahead of her fights. So after this one, assuming she wins, and you never want to really bother someone after a loss. But if she wins, I will definitely catch up with her and pick her brain about all the Bung Tao trainings and stuff that she did to get ready for this one. And against Olsum, I expect a pretty decent size advantage. I mean, the lengths aren't too crazy, 5'3" to 5'4" here. And Olsum actually has just ever so slightly reach, is practically the same. But yeah, she hasn't been much of a finisher, on the ground. Obviously, she's threatened at times. Got the guillotine there and the Mazar fight, a while back, but she's far less dangerous, I think, than Mungbo, especially on the feet. Everyone who watches Mungbo knows how dangerous she is on the feet. Just puts things together very nicely, just sharp, heavy hands. So I'll be curious to see like how much her kicking game has improved, how much her grappling defense, obviously something she's been working on since the Ritu loss, but I don't really know what happened necessarily in the Teo one. Just kind of got overwhelmed there, clearly. But this new potential new and improved Mung Bo is very exciting to me. So, Brandon Olivas, not Olivia. Sorry, spell check. All right. But Sammy says Whaley brought her and Wu Yanan into Bang Tao. Do you think that training will help? So yes, I didn't mention Wu Yanan, but she came along too. Put Whaley to another level, or is it different fighter to fighter? It's definitely different from fighter to fighter, but I think hard not to assume that the training there will help. So I can't wait to see. Excuse me. Oh, as Jumbo issues a warning, not to make fun of Wu Yanan, as Whaley will get mad at you and possibly beat you up. I can't imagine. Imagine that Whaley the bounty hunter seeking out all the bullies. That's a great reality TV show. I don't think that. I think anyone would be safe, but yeah, don't make fun of Wu Yanan regardless. So. Jimmy says the training must be good at Bang Tao if they are attracted everywhere. Exactly, right? Like something's working. People want to go check the place out, do their camps there. Jimmy says that the next super gym like ATT or Sanford. I mean, internationally, I think so far it has been for sure. Like, look at everyone who's gone there this year. Yeah, I mean, ATT, absolutely massive. Sanford, what is now Killcliff, right? Killcliff FC, which is really hilarious, but got to get their money, I guess. I don't even know if I'd apply that to a super gym at this stage. Obviously, a very good one, but ATT is so massive. Fight Ready doesn't really count since only the top of the top go there for help. Yeah, that's true. ATT is clearly the best example. It's just massive. Would you compare Mungbo to Amanda Lemos in terms of power? Yeah, for sure. Yeah, they're definitely two of the hardest punchers in all of 115 and 125. I think that's for sure. James says, I saw Mung Bo and Whaley standing next to each other. There's a huge difference in size. Bo is way bigger. She's always been very big, man. Like, um, you know, I don't think, I mean, you could see it when they fought back in the day, but yeah, she's getting more muscular and she was always a very big 115 pounder. So the weight cut's obviously a lot easier here at 125 for her, but um yeah, Mungbo, that's why she's packed so much power. She's got some muscle. But Whaley, Jumbo says Whaley doesn't get mad often, but when someone did on Weibo, she was angry like rant angry. Really? I would love to see that. Fired up Whaley is yeah, you don't see that very often. Central says, do you think Bo will add wrestling offense? I think that would be a great idea, especially like for this fight specifically. Mix it up against Olsen. I don't think she really will need to, right? But wouldn't hurt. And I know that for a fact she's been working on her defense, of course, but yeah, I mean, offensively, that would be a great wrinkle to add in for her, and especially working with Whaley and whatnot. I'm sure they talked about that kind of stuff. Listener says, isn't that why everyone goes to Bung Tao because of the Hickman Bros? That is also, yeah, fantastic point. So Jumbo says her pet peeve seems to be anyone making fun of Wu Yanan. So she just, I'm sure it's not just Wu Yanan, but I would like, it would be really funny if that was it. Like she just gets triggered by Wu Yanan slander only. Like anyone else, she's fine with you talking shit about Mung Bo or anybody else, but do not say a bad word about Wu Yanan or Whaley's going to get pissed. That's great. She got mad at one of her analysts for saying a joke of Wu. This is incredible. I gotta see this footage. I'm very compelled by that. And Ghost says it was him. My goodness. Ghost is admitting to being the target here now, pissing off Whaley. Here we go. What a development that we have here. So there we go. That is the first of our 2-1 fights and Chinese fighter fights, actually, because over on One Prime Video 5, we have the return of Lin Hixin. So soon. She takes on Denise Zambawanga. And if you guys want to go back to robbery talk, I would understand a case for the Itsuki versus Lin Hixin fight, which was Lin Hixin's last fight, obviously. Suffered the loss in that one because she got knocked down in the last 16 seconds of the fight, where she was winning every other second of the entire fight. But the last 16, Itsuki nearly finished her, won her the fight, essentially. It wasn't like a domination or anything like that, but Lin Hixin was clearly getting the better of Itsuki. Looking great. Really working her kicks in that one. Just fighting a well-fought, smart fight. Just a great striker, Lin Hixin. I mean, she had the kickboxing match after the B-win. I love to say that. The B-win here. And they don't have it here on the immediate record, but she had that great performance there in the kickboxing match. Always throwing up that side kick when she has the opportunity. And against Denise Zambawanga, going to be her first fight since dropping the 2 to Sohee Ham. So I expect her to be very motivated and ready to perform, do her thing. But there's going to be a big difference in the length here, as Lin Hixin is always kind of one of the longer, taller fighters in this division. 5'6" to 5'2", but the reach is actually not too different whatsoever there. But Lin still utilizes her reach a lot better than Denise. Denise, not a bad striker by any means necessary, but Lin will have the edge there for sure. Denise should try to take this fight to the ground. I'm sure she will. She mixes it up pretty well. And so, I mean, that's typically what people like to do and want to do against Lin. And she had the loss to Ritu as well as Mungbo did. So Ritu, just kind of the China killer, killing the Chinese girls in one. But that's just a matter of the matchups and how the chips lay sometimes. But yeah, ultimately, I think Denise will want to smother, get inside, close the distance on Lynn, not allow her to get off, the great side kicks and just all the stuff she does good from distance. Um, because that's just where she flourishes. So kind of, I think it'll be pretty cut and dry in that regard. I'm sure she'll look for some good clinch shots too. She's pretty good. And there is Denise. And again, doesn't want to go on a 3-fight skid. That would be no good for her. But Ghost says, funny story, Drake. I told Whaley that Wu had buttery smooth combos, but she hits as soft as butter. Oh, you told her your classic phrase or what metaphor comparison of Wu. She did not like that. Well, I mean, that is one of my favorite things, but I can understand why she might not like it. Raid says the Lin Hay Shin of kicking people in the shin. Indeed. Sammy says, who has the better sidekick, Lin Hay Shin, Yan Xiaonan or Wei Li? My goodness, the old Sonda sidekick debate. Wow. Sammy says, and do you think Lin's sidekick is going to give Zamboanga problems? If she can get it off, that's the thing. If Denise can't get around it or maybe time it to catch or something like that, that's the problem. Like it could open up takedowns. I could see that happening for sure. But yeah, it's a very problematic strike for a lot of people, for sure. And she does it very well. But who has the better one? So, I know what Ghost is going to say about this. And I'm sure some of you guys might agree, but when you look at obviously the spinning back kick or the chaining, how they chain off of it, and they obviously do the similarities, but the spinning back fist, for example, to follow it up, right, or those kind of things. I think Whaley probably does better, but in terms of the kick, I don't know. They're all very close. Like for the kick by itself, not what comes after it and how it's utilized. Even though I think that's an important part to look at, but I really like Yan Zhao Nans, honestly. Of course, I'm biased there a little bit, but I mean, I love all three of these girls. I really do. They're all some of my favorites. But that's a great question, Sammy. I don't know. They all do it very good. Who does it most? I feel like might be Zhao Nan. Like who throws it out there the most in their fights? I don't know. I don't know. That's a tough question. They all do it very well. I mean, they've been training that thing their whole lives, right? So, Sincho says Lynn had a good right hand in the Tsuki fight. You think she can tag her on the way in? That's a great point. Yeah, I think that definitely Lynn will be landing that as Denise inevitably comes inward. Or the right hand, not a good idea against wrestler. I don't see why not. I think it should be fine. But I think majorly she'll try and stay away, obviously. Sammy says, I know Whaley builds off it more, but I'm talking about the kick itself. Yeah, so yeah, exactly. Like the kick itself, man, that's tough. That is a really tough one. They all do it very nicely. And again, like I feel like we just see it more from Zhao, so maybe that's why I kind of lean there, whether it's the body or the head. But we should do like a 3-by-side, right? Like put all of them side by side and kind of look. There needs to be some sidekick montage where we collect all of them from like their last so many times that they've done them. That'd be really fun. But they all did. They're all their sidekicks are very good. But I think I might lean towards Zhao Nan. I don't know. It's tough. That's a tough one. Citro says also inside low kicks. Shout out to Ghost. Yes, for sure. For sure. But all right. That is 1 on Prime Video, 5, you guys. So yeah, we're taking our time here. But we got 3 more fights to get into as quickly as we can. My goodness. My goodness. Ghost chiming in here says the kick itself, Lin and Whaley's, is pretty similar. Yes, sure is. And then he says what he likes about Zhao Nan's is that it can go to the face in terms of the chamber. Yeah, so that's the thing, right? Like I feel like, yeah, Zhao Nan definitely hits up and down a little bit, maybe more often, but they're both very nice. Whaley's to the bodies. I mean, you can't go wrong with any of these picks, honestly. All 3 of them, they all do them so nicely. That's such a great technique. I love me a good Sonda sidekick, man. That's a great question, Sammy. There's no wrong answer. That's one of those ones where there's just no wrong answer to that. And now I really want to go just watch like a fucking highlight of all 3 of them just throwing that thing. I'm gonna have to Maybe I'll put something together. Maybe I'll do something for you guys, something fun like that next week, if I have time, or if Ghost wants to do that, it could be fun. Hey, who knows? I think it'd be fun to see all their sidekicks just back to back to back to back to back. But yeah, the chaining, obviously, I think that's easy there. And whatnot. But anyway, let's get to UFC Orlando. Here might go overtime today, but that's all right. We got some pretty compelling matchups to get into. Excuse me, checking the phone real quick. Whoops, didn't want to do that. Got the sniffles, but kicking things off. The very first fight of UFC Orlando. I'm a little bit disappointed by this. I mean, I am and I'm not. I like when they do this, and I don't like when they do this. I don't like it for the fighters specifically, but as a viewer, like, the sooner we get the fight, that's great. But I don't understand how you put Yasmin Yaragway after her debut as the opening fight of the night. Like, give me a break here. Curtain jerking. Like, it's when Aaron Blanchfield, in Aldrich was the first fight. Like, that made no sense. This makes even less sense. Like, I think objectively, people are going to be more drawn to Yasmin Yaragway style. She is just so fun to watch. Such an aggressive, great combination striker. I mean, I just don't know how you don't love Yasmin Yaragway. Taking on Estela Nunes. We got kind of the alums, the Combate Americas versus One Championship here. And the odds makers are in agreement that we got a pretty good size favorite in Yasmin, -350 to +280. Not mad at that whatsoever. This is definitely make or break for Estela, who's had a rough go starting things out in the UFC. Coming back after her massive layoff from One Championship. Got submitted by Ariane Carnelosi. And then lost to Sam Page. Got overwhelmed by the old Sam Page there. Won't have to worry too much about the grappling in this one. Not that Yasmin can't, but she's just so comfortable on the feet and, like I said, puts things together so well. I think Estela is just going to get eaten alive and overwhelmed on the feet in this one. She's going to have to do something to close the distance, get in there, and, maybe get Yasmin against the cage, make her uncomfortable. But I haven't seen really any techniques from her or anything from her to lead me to believe that. Like, she's going to have to absorb a lot of damage to get where she wants to go. To get to where she wants to go. My brain is kind of broken today. But I'm so excited to see Yasmin Yaragway back. She'll be down on the reach a little bit here, as you can see, -1 in the height, and then the reach there. But yeah, make or break for Nunes for sure. But ultimately, I mean, when you look at just who's the better fighter again, and you break down the individual skills bit by bit, Yaragway, and I mean, the sky is the limit at 23. She seems like just so far ahead of her age right now. One of the best prospects just in the game. I really enjoy her. And Sammy says compelling is good, right? Yeah, I mean, you generally, right? Like, you want something to be thought-provoking and interesting, unless it's overly compelling. Like, when you have a movie and there's too much coming at you, like, man, I'm maybe too compelled here. I don't know if that has ever happened, but Jade asked, do you think that Yasmin is champion level? I know she throws the same 1-2 high kick, but fast and accurate with it. Very much so. Not right now. I think that's definitely still too soon to say, but I think she 100% has the potential, Jin. Like, I promise, unless she gets like completely exposed by some wrestler, I think that would be the big thing, right? To lead to an exposure. Unless that happens, she's gonna be top 10 for sure someday. Rue says, can Yasmin beat any top 15 girls? Yes, I think she definitely can. If let's look at these specific rankings right now. So this is one of the things. You look at how someone's doing and then kind of what they can go against. As it is beginning to hail outside. I don't know if you guys can hear that through the mic, but yep, it's pretty heavy hail outside all of a sudden. So that's what we're working with here today. But like, Polyana Viana is number 15 now, officially in the rankings. Angela Hill is still number 12. Watterson is 11. It is coming down. Can you guys hear that? If you can hear the hail, please comment because it's very loud. um, Here, I'll even turn up the mic a bit there. I usually have it on 60, but it fluctuates throughout the show. But yeah, like these matchups specifically I just mentioned, Viana, Hill, Watterson, I'd favor Uruguay probably against all of them. So there's 3. I'm not really going to look at the top 10. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but Torres could be interesting. And we'll leave it at that. We won't get too crazy. So Citro says, is Yasmin the future, as everyone in the chat seems to think? Yes, I believe so. Just 23, like I said, looks sensational. Can we get a scouting report? Sure, scouting report. Yasmin is great in combination, but with that style, will struggle when the opponent does not come forward. So for Estella, just hang back and counter, but that's easier said than done. Yeah, I don't expect her to do that. If Estella can throw the right-hand counter, then when Yasmin throws the jab, since she will commit to it often off the jab. Yeah. So very true. Yeah, I don't expect Estella to hang back like that. She likes to be aggressive as well. Ghost did say that Yasmin will beat Hebos. I could see that as well. Yeah, the ground. I think Hebos's ground game could give her trouble there, though. That's kind of the big problem for me. If she decides to go to it, we'll talk about Hebos here momentarily. But yeah. Yasmin versus Whaley in the future of Barnburner. My goodness, what a potential fight that can be. Like, whew. Like, there's just the thing with Yasmin Uruguay is there's just so much that can get better, and she's already quite good. So, yeah, very excited to see her fight all the time. So yeah, but anyway, speaking of Amanda Hebos, she's back and kind of stepped down a little bit, at least, regrouping a bit here. She takes on Tracy Cortez at flyweight once again, and in a fight where she most likely will be on her back at least once. Tracy Cortez, always liking to wrestle, has some decent boxing, but yeah, Amanda Hebos is going to have to work on, be ready for the wrestling. I think she's going to be well aware of that. On the feet, I still think she'll have an edge at least. Obviously, her defense was just really, really bad in the last fight against Chukagian. Very close odds here, as you can see, nearly even. Plus 110 for Tracy, minus 130 for Hebos. Hebos, I think it's easy to forget just how great her top control is too. Like when she gets on top, she is very hard to get off you and does some serious damage. If you look back at the Randa Marcos fight, is one I always highlight. Like she beat up Randa real good in that one. Before armbarring Paige, hilarious. But yeah, and I mean Randa's a good wrestling-based fighter too, so I think these odds are about right. Obviously, Tracy's gonna have a size advantage, 5'5" in the height anyway, and she has fought at bantamweight before, just a bigger kind of fighter. So if she can kind of impose that on Hebos, give her some problems, not let her get on top, and make her uncomfortable on the feet too, which I still think Hebos will have a slight edge offensively. Her defense, she really has hopefully shored that up since the last fight, because again, her defense was just very bad against Chukagian. But I think, and then even on her back though, I think Hebos can pull off some submissions, but this should be a pretty wrestling heavy or scrambly potentially fight, I think. So yeah. As Rain says, is this a predatory matchmaking thing? I don't think I would count this one. No, I think they're pretty. I mean, obviously, Hebos has more of the name value, but it's dipped off a bit. I don't think it's the same as if we can compare to the recent one, Blanchfield and McCann. Like, yeah, I don't think ready to do that with Cortez for this one, especially with Hebos coming off a loss. But Cincho says, I asked this earlier, but is it more important for Hebos to get up than takedown defense? That is true. Yeah, I think so. I think probably because when she's in the get up, she can kind of maneuver to get some better positions and counter grapple that way. and maybe get on top herself, where she can land that vicious ground and pound and maybe work a submission. So I think I would agree with you there, or maybe not agree, but say that would be what you do. And James says, didn't Hebus beat Dern, and Dern could not get back up off her back? Seems like something to exploit with Dern. How is Hebus bottom game, since Tracy does have good takedowns? Yeah, that's a good point. I don't think we've really seen, exactly how good Hebus is on the bottom. Like nothing's coming to mind exactly, a time where she's had to fight off the bottom, really. Jandaroba, I don't remember getting her down really from what I don't know. Nothing's sticking out. I could totally be forgetting, but I don't think we've really seen Hebus deal with top pressure like that or anything. Tracy and the large eyelashes. That was hilarious. Yes, I do remember that, Rue. Go says, Henry work with Tracy on this fight. Should we expect high level game plan or same old Tracy? I would assume that should help, right? In theory, that should always help. But I know it's kind of hard to say, because I feel like you got to lean towards what we're used to seeing. But I guess we'll see. Jin says, don't I think holding down Marcos and PVZ is not impressive considering who they are? Well, Paige, less impressive. I think Randa, though, a good enough grappler, a quality grappler, at least wrestling based. Sure, they're not the most impressive names you could do, but you look at the way she did it, and how she did it was very good. I look at that one more than the Paige one. Let's put it that way. But yeah, no, that's fair to bring up. As Jin says, I think subbing a high level grappler is better than PVZ or Randa. Yeah, I mean that's fair too. What are you speaking specifically here of? I mean, like, for example, the Jandaroba win is better than both of those for sure. But she again didn't really beat her on the ground the same way there, which then that would have been like, oh my, because Jandaroba was still absolutely incredible. But yeah. So that is Cortez versus Hebus. We are definitely over time now, as expected. But one last fight. Let's give it the 3 minutes here. Wrap it on up with Angela Hill versus Emily Ducote. Yeah. So, I mean, fun one here at strawweights. Emily Ducote, the former strawweight champ of Invicta. Just a slight favorite here. Plus 105 to minus 125. So a little bit closer than I would have expected. I think I might stretch it out a bit. Angela Hill, obviously still a bit deceptive. I mean, pulling off that win against Loopy was impressive. I think even though we all agreed maybe it was more of a detriment of Loopy than Hill, making adjustments. I don't know. That was just a weird one for Loopy is what it turned into. She started off great. But Emily Ducote, it just has been phenomenal, on this stretch here. Has looked so good. She's continuing to climb the ranks. I think she has potential to be top 10 soon enough too. In terms of the reach, they're pretty close here. I mean, everybody we've talked about today has been pretty close in the reach and whatnot. Her debut against Penne worked the leg brilliantly. Beautiful stuff there. Penne just really had no answers for it. That's the most interesting thing about this fight to me, though, is the game planning and the approach that they will take, because Hill and Penne are obviously very different styles, but Penne and Hill are like best friends. They're training partners, talk all the time, all this. So 100% Penne is has helped Hill prepare for this fight. So how much that will come into play or matter at all, I'm not sure, but Ducote, just this championship level patience that has been developed as a champion, really takes her shots when they're there, doesn't force anything. I saw some people point out that might have been like a bad thing in the last fight, but I mean, she looked great. That was not a competitive fight. Outclassed Jessica Penne everywhere the fight went. And I love Jessica Penne, and as I said earlier, and this was that was a bittersweet kind of match for me, because I like Ducote a lot too. But for Angela Hill, very mobile, moves around a lot, pretty active striker. And against someone like Dakota, I think she might have to get a little bit more mobile and active herself, but if she can time things, wait for the counters and whatnot, she's going to be just fine. Chew up the leg again, try to do that. I don't see Hill having any wrestling success if she tries to. Dakota has improved her takedown defense tremendously over the years since the Kanako fight specifically. I mean, even in the Kanako fight, she did very well against Kanako despite coming up short. I know some people even thought Dakota won that one, but I'm not going to argue that. So, need more Kanako in our lives, essentially. But looking forward to this one. Similar to Yaraguay versus Dakota. That's a great fight too. Yaraguay versus my goodness, that's what I want to see eventually. But Yaraguay and Nunes, I think it's similar where Dakota is just kind of the better fighter at this stage, as kind of ahead of their time a little bit with the experience, and it's just kind of their time. Looking so good right now, and matchup I think is very favorable. So, Jin mentioning, what I'm talking about, Whaley subbing Carlos better than any of those wins. Well, I don't know why we're making that comparison, but yes, that is true. Just point it out, I guess. Ghost says triggering the boys here, but Hill has looked good in the clinch against Lemos and Loopy. That was true. And I thought that Hill had a great game plan against Loopy by putting strikes in the space of where she wanted to shoot. That is very true. Won't have to worry about that against Dakota. We won't be seeing any takedowns there. At least I would not expect. Ghost says, so I don't get why you guys think that was more on Loopy than Hill making her reluctant to wrestle. I thought tactically it was great by Hill, but what do I know? That is a good point. Yeah, I mean, I just feel like she still could have taken some to try, because we know how aggressive and strong her wrestling game has been recently. So that's kind of the line of thinking. But it's hard not to agree with what you're saying there, Ghost. Angela did do very well there, but I don't think that's going to be really much of a factor in this one. Says Dakota can probably do what Tisha did to Hill, right? Says James. Yeah, for sure. Says I really don't want Hill to go on a streak. I hope she wins, then loses, and wins, then calls. All right. Ray says, can Emily fight for the belt now? I would. No, I would. I'm not ready to say that, but I could see it. I think I'm high on her enough to where, yeah. I mean, she's looked so good, but even after a win here, I wouldn't say that. But if she beats somebody like I don't know, someone higher up in the totem pole, for sure, she can get there. I just don't want to give any credit. All right, well, we know how that is. That's been one of the longest running themes of the show, for sure. Okay, here's a good one. Rain saying, how would she do against Dern? Yeah. I think, yeah, I mean, it's always the thing. It is always going to be the thing for most people with Dern, right? Is just don't get taken down. Essentially, that's generally what it's going to come down to, especially against these higher caliber strikers like Dakota. She would be fine, absolutely fine on the feet against Dern. You just got to worry about the not takedown, but getting dragged to the ground, which I think she'd be fine with. So I think I would, yeah, maybe favor Dakota even in that matchup, but that's just how it goes with those kind of matchups. As Sammy says, can Hill beat Dern? I would not expect that. No, I don't think Hill would beat Dern. I mean, we've seen Angela Hill get taken down by you name it. Doesn't really matter who. So I think Dern could find a way to get her down. Might not be pretty like usual, but she would do it. So yeah, looking forward to that one. Emily Dakota and Yaraguay. Just seeing both of them back. That is what I'm definitely most excited for out of that. As Rue says, do you think with Whaley training with Josh Hinger, she could be as dangerous on the ground as Dern? No, that's one of those things where like you can't catch up to that caliber of what someone's been doing their whole life, no matter how much you train. Like it doesn't matter. Considering he's one of the best finishers in the world in terms of grappling. Yeah, it's like she's still dangerous. She's obviously very dangerous, but I mean, obviously we've seen Mackenzie stifled or, people surviving her now in Jiaonan and Rodriguez, but she's still very dangerous down there. The most dangerous down there, right? Obviously. So it's hard to catch up to that kind of thing. So All right, you guys. Well, we are well over time today, but it's been such a great show. I've had such a good time with hanging out, even though I'm feeling a little bit better at the end of the show here than when I started, but still very plugged up, as you can hear. That was UFC Orlando. That was episode 40. My goodness. My goodness. What a time. What a time it is. So, as we wrap up, you guys, don't forget to visit WMMAnia.com for all your MMA needs. Do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell on the channel. At least hit the like button. It really helps us out a whole bunch. Help us grow, support us, all that good stuff. Always doing great things as much as we can. You follow me at Drinkers_ on Twitter and Instagram if you would so like. Yeah, I don't think I have any specific plugs today. Spoke to Jessica Andrade recently. I mean, that's a recent one that came out. Obviously, she will be fighting January, returning to Rio. Broaden Horizon, that was our biggest episode yet. Broaden Horizon 21. Check that out. Just a 3-guest lineup. AJ McKee, Juan Archuleta, and Ren Hiramoto. Good stuff there. It was huge. It was a big one for us, which was kind of surprising, but smashed our records, our numbers, and viewership. So that was cool. Pretty cool to see. Thank you so much to everyone who has helped and done that, supporting along the way. But yeah, anyway, I'm going to wrap it up there, you guys. I got to go. We're over time, like I said, but I appreciate you oh so much. And I will see you back on Tuesday. Hopefully that is the plan. Whenever we're not on Tuesday, it's because of something happened, and I apologize so much. So things happen. They happen, but usually always 12. No matter what day it is. And thanks Rio. A little late, and that makes sense. I don't know. We screwed it up for quite a while, haven't we? But I'll get it right now. So, okay, you guys, thanks so much as always. I appreciate you greatly. Have a great rest of your days. Have a happy start to December, as I will see you next month officially. But yes, take care, stay safe, stay sane, everybody, and keep on keeping on.